in each of the first 3 games. Meanwhile, Red Sox starters allowed only 3 earned runs themselves in 20 innings. But the bullpen gave up an alarming 11 earned runs in a mere 6 1/3 innings of work. With their season on the brink, the Red Sox turned to their ace, Roger Clemens, to keep their hopes alive. This game would turn out to be one of the most controversial in league championship history. Let's head out to Oakland now as the Athletics host the Red Sox. It's Game 4 in the 1990 American League Championship Series here on ESPN Classic.
It is 71 degrees and a beautiful afternoon for baseball here in the Bay Area, getting set for Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. Let's take a look at the Boston Red Sox starting batting order, and it's been shuffled up, although the same 9 are in there. Ellis Burks will lead off and play center field. Jody Reed, who had been leading off, now hitting second. Wade Boggs remains in the number 3 slot. He's at third base. Mike Greenwell moves up to the cleanup position in left field. Tony Pena behind the plate, hitting 5th. Dwight Evans, the designated hitter, followed by Tom Brunansky in right field. Carlos Quintana, who had been hitting second, is dropped to number 8 in the order. Quintana hitting 8th, and Luis Rivera, the shortstop, batting 9th for the Red Sox. Joe Morgan just wants to get a different look in there, and that's why he is shaking them up. Couldn't ask for better weather. And in the daytime, the ball carries, although we have only had 1 home run in this series thus far, that by Wade Boggs of the Red Sox in game number 1, as the A's take the field.
And in game 4, the same alignment as Tony La Russa used yesterday. Ricky Henderson will play left field. Dave Henderson gets to start again in center. And Jose Canseco over in right field. On the infield, Carney Lansford at third base. And Mike Gallego replacing Walt Weiss at shortstop. Veteran Willie Randolph, the hero of yesterday's game, plays second base. Mark McGuire over at first. Terry Steinbach will do the catching. Dave Stewart will do the pitching, trying to set a record in league championship play.
Let's bring you up to date on what we've seen so far. The Oakland starters have been magnificent, allowing only 3 runs in 21 1/3 innings. And their relievers, well, Dennis Eckersley has 2 saves, and the Red Sox bullpen has struggled throughout. That's been a big Achilles heel for them. The Red Sox 0 for 17 with runners in scoring position. They have not gotten a hit when they've had runners in scoring position, and they have had a 1-0 lead in all 3 games.
And I think today you see what Oakland has done with just 32 hits, 29 singles. I mean, you're looking at a team that is known as the Bashers, yet the Red Sox have more extra base hits, but they have not been able to take advantage of their base runners.
Dave Stewart, who was the winning pitcher in game 1, working 8 innings. The Red Sox had base runners on in 5 of those innings, and a guy who wants the ball, kind of a throwback. Every 4th day, 3 days rest is all Stewart needs.
Yeah, he's had a couple of starts on 3 days rest. One time he went 11 innings and beat Seattle and went into the 9th inning of the other one. So he loves, as most pitchers years ago did, he loves working on the 4th day. Dave Stewart's a throwback for another reason. You look at your pitchers like Gibson and Marichal and some of the greats. They were vulnerable early in the ball game, but once they got rolling through the middle part, they got a lot tougher.
Terry Cooney will call balls and strikes today. Vic Voltaggio will be at first base. Larry McCoy, the umpire, at second, and Rich Garcia at third. And down the lines, it'll be John Hirschbeck in left and Jim Evans in right. And we're set to go, and Ellis Burks will lead off. He is 3 for 11 in the series. And the first pitch of the game from Dave Stewart is taken for a ball inside. Burks was a leadoff hitter in game 3 of the '88 championship series. That's the game the Red Sox scored 5 runs, but ultimately lost here in Oakland. Fastball, it's popped out of play, and it's 1-1.
As Joe Morgan said, that the names haven't changed. You just juggle it around, and it's kind of a psychological ploy. Give the team a little different look, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
Well, it got him 5 runs in game 3 2 years ago. Two balls and a strike. In the air, Mark McGuire in foul territory. And there's one away.
You're going to look at two pitchers again today with that classic motion. See the leg kick and the hip turn. Show the hitter your hip pocket and watch that front foot right toward the target. When they pick that knee up, Clemens and Stewart, it's like they're going to knee themselves in the stomach. You don't want to swing that leg around. You want to pick it up.
We'll get a good look at that stare by Stewart as the game wears on. Here's Jody Reed with one out in the first inning. Takes his strike. Reed has collected only one hit in 11 at-bats in the first 3 games. As you can see, has done well against Stewart in the past, but Stewart's ahead on the count. No balls and 2 strikes. Stewart has won his last 9 decisions against the Red Sox. Ground ball to third, loved by Carney Lansford. Reed is out, 2 down.
Now Lansford once again in that ideal position. The glove down on the ground, weight up on the balls of the feet. Third baseman doesn't have to have foot speed, but he's got to have good lateral movement like the great Brooks Robinson of the Orioles in years past, and Lansford has that.
2 down, and Wade Boggs the batter. And 5 for 12 has been the most productive hitter for the Red Sox in this series. If you want to call getting 3 runs in 3 games productive. He takes a fastball for a strike. He has a homer against Stewart and a double in the series. Pitch is outside, 1-1. Stewart with a 22-11 year. And in his personal matchup with Clemens, 7-1 lifetime. Fouled off the mask of Terry Steinbach, and the count is 1-2.
And if he were to win today's game, he would have 5 victories in League Championship Series play, and that would be a record.
He was 4-0 in postseason in 4 starts. Check swing, but a ground ball into right field, sort of a half swing, and Wade Boggs has his 6th hit of the series, a 2-out base hit.
Well, this is a great example of a pitch down and in. Down and in from a right-hand pitcher to a left-hand hitter is the easiest pitch to get the barrel of the bat on. Look how Boggs doesn't take a hard swing, but it's so easy to drop the barrel on that pitch. That's why you pitch guys high and tight, low and away. You don't pitch him down and in. He just kind of golfs that into right field.
That brings up Mike Greenwell, who is still looking for his first hit in this LCS. 2 out, Boggs at first. Pitch is up and away, ball 1. Greenwell and Quintana both hitless thus far in this series. There's a strike on the corner, and it's 1-1 to Mike. Red Sox have scored 3 runs. Boggs' homer accounting for 1, and 2 other runs scored on sacrifice flies. That's been it. Foul out of play.
I mentioned Joe Morgan shaking up the lineup today, and it was his words. He says, hey, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. He has got a real perspective on this game, a way of putting things in reality. He knows that just juggling the lineup is not going to make Dave Stewart any less a pitcher, but he wants to try something different.
Here's the 1-2 pitch, and a line drive right at Willie Randolph to retire the side. Greenwell hit it solidly. No runs, a hit, 1 left. The Red Sox don't score, and the A's coming to bat. Well, the A's coming to bat in the first inning after the Red Sox go out.
And they've juggled the lineup when they're at the at bat, but in the field they line up the same. Greenwell, Burks, and Bernansky in the outfield, and around the infield, Boggs, Rivera, Reed, and Quintana. Tony Pena behind the plate doing the catching, and the Rocket, Roger Clemens, will do the pitching.
And the A's lineup, Ricky Henderson will lead off. Dave Henderson moves up to second in the order. Jose Canseco batting third. Harold Baines, the designated hitter. Carney Lansford is at third base. Terry Steinbach, the catcher. Mark McGuire playing first base. Willie Randolph, yesterday's hero, at second base, at least one of them, and Mike Gallego, the shortstop, batting ninth for the A's. And concerning the A's, who are leading 3-0 as we look at Roger Clemens getting set, it's been 71 years since the team won a postseason series without hitting a home run. The 1919 Reds were the last team to do it, and right now we've had only one homer, that hit by Wade Boggs. Here's Ricky Henderson. He has been caught once. Yesterday he tried to steal third and was nailed, and there was some back and forth as whether that was a good move or not. Roger Clemens, first pitch of the game to Henderson, swings and a pop-up, drifting foul and out of play.
Tony La Russa gives Ricky a green light sign. That means he doesn't have to go, but he can go, referring to yesterday's game when Henderson was on second base. Tried to steal third, was thrown out with Mark McGwire at the plate. Tony said, I probably shouldn't have given him the green light because it wasn't a high percentage play. That's one of those plays only good if you make it.
And La Russa owned up.
Yep.
Foul back. And the count, no balls and 2 strikes. So Clemens is working with 3 days rest. Considerable concern as to whether he has any pain in his arm. Seems not to be the problem. His problem is conditioning right now. Infield and outfield, playing Henderson straight away. Fly ball down the right field line, and that'll go into the crowd.
I can appreciate Dave Stewart's comments about Roger Clemens when he said, hey, if you're going to risk the franchise just by trying to win one game in a series that they have very little chance. But injury, and I can see him saying that, concern for Roger Clemens' career, but as you said, injury is not the factor here. It's fatigue, it's leg strength conditioning. He's only started 3 games in the last 5 weeks.
Pitch is low. Because there were some ideas that maybe Clemens, who may go 6 innings or so, maybe 7, you start somebody else, bring him in. I mean, that's a wild idea, but not out of the realm.
I wondered about that. It's kind of an unorthodox plan to start a Harris or a Bolton and see if you can get 3 innings out of him and then bring the Rocket in the 4th inning.
1-2 pitch. Pop foul, a lot of room here. Carlos Quintana chases it, and it lands in the first row.
Similar to Stewart, you'll see watch the knee, almost like he's going to knee himself in the chest. Shows the hitter that back pocket, and watch the front foot right toward the target. I mean, you're looking at a couple of examples of ideal pitching mechanics in Clemens and Stewart.
You talk about not starting your pitcher and saving him for another day. That was used in a pennant race in '67.
Dick Williams, who managed the Red Sox to the pennant that year of the impossible dream, gambled on Saturday with Jose Santiago and held Lonborg back for the final day, and they won.
Line drive, base hit to right field. Brunansky cuts it off, and Ricky Henderson is on board with his 5th hit of the series. So the base stealing threat is here early in this game.
You get the idea from this at bat that Ricky Henderson has said, okay, some of the other guys have been getting it done. Willie Randolph, Dave Henderson, today is going to be my day. And he starts it out with a line drive single.
So here's Dave Henderson, who returned to action. Remember, he had the knee surgery and came back in August. 1 for 2 with a RBI sacrifice fly yesterday. Takes a pitch just missing inside, 1-0. He also had a stolen base. The A's will not hit and run with Ricky Henderson. They feel that why waste that move if Henderson can steal second and get over there himself.
Clemens has done a little better job abbreviating that leg kick to get the ball to Pena and give him a chance to throw out Henderson.
One ball and 1 strike to Dave Henderson. He's been a money performer. When the chips are down and the leaves begin to turn, he rises to the occasion. Good velocity on that pitch. Swung on and missed, 1-2. Rene Latchman, former Red Sox third base coach, is over there for the A's. Dave McKay mans the first base coaching lines.
see Ricky with that little jump step right there at the last minute. He knows just how much he can take and still dive back in ahead of the tag. And that's his way of disrupting the pitcher.
And he knows he can dive back safely. He has it all measured. Henderson in the last 10 years has averaged more than 80 stolen bases a season. That was a little closer. How much of a role does Pena have in inducing Roger Clemens to throw over them?
Well, a lot of teams have a set sign. Pena might make this call on his own. If you see the pinky finger pointed that way, that usually means throw to first base.
Ground ball hit to the right side. Jody Reed over Rivera for one. The throw to first, and the double play is turned by the Red Sox. And there are two down.
Clemens not only made a great pitch to Dave Henderson, Reed, Rivera, and Quintana turned the double play smoothly, but he did an outstanding job of varying his count to Ricky Henderson and not allowing him to get a good jump to steal second base. By varying his count, he held the ball a count or two, then he delivered quickly.
So two down to Jose Canseco. Hasn't really been himself in this series. He is hitless in 3 official trips with an RBI, but he has scored a run in each game. Play him to pull in the infield. The first pitch from Clemens is a strike.
And I would think with that wide open stance that he's used to protect against the back injury, he can't turn quite as well, that he's even going to have more trouble pulling the ball off Clemens.
Off the fist and out of play, and that was a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Last 2 pitches have been right around that mark from Clemens. Clemens walked 4 and struck out 4 in his game 1 outing that went 6 innings. He also threw a wild pitch. Amazing story for Clemens, who came down with tendonitis of the shoulder, was out from September 4th until September 29th, came back and pitched 6 hitless or run the shutout innings against the Toronto Blue Jays in a big game for the Red Sox. Breaking ball, roll to second base, and Jody Reed is there, and the side is retired. There was a hit, none left, and we've completed 1 inning here in Oakland in game 4, and there's no score.
Intensity and competitiveness. Those are attributes that Roger Clemens brings with him every time he takes the mound. But Clemens also has a reputation for being an intimidator with a propensity to throw inside. It was that reputation that stirred plenty of emotion when Clemens beaned the Mets' Mike Piazza on July 8, 2000. Was it intimidation or just a mistake?
Whoa!
Oh, boy. Uh-oh. Mike has always, obviously everyone knows, hit me well. That wasn't the way I wanted to get him out.
I'm going to say on my own, I thought it was definitely intentional.
I was shaken up once the ball hit him in the head, and but I was definitely trying to pitch him in.
I feel there's a definite difference between that and, you know, almost ending my career getting hit in the face, getting hit in the eye. I choose really to try to think of Roger Clemens as a great pitcher, but I really can't say I have respect for him right now.
The highly anticipated rematch between Piazza and Clemens would take place in Game 2 of the 2000 World Series. Most rematches are anticlimactic, but this one did not disappoint and definitely took a bizarre turn. Here's Mark Schwartz with all the details of Clemens-Piazza 2.
For the umpires, the standard was simple. Did Roger Clemens intend to throw the bat at Mike Piazza? They decided he did not. But Clemens himself acknowledged his emotions were flowing furiously. Who can determine intent in a man possessed?
The home plate umpire, I said something to the effect, you know, I'm pretty fired up here, as you can see. And he goes, yeah, this is the World Series. And I go, yeah, it is. And I said, but you got to know that I was throwing that bat towards the on-deck circle. I had no idea Mike was running, nor did I see him. He goes, I'll tell him. I said, well, please do. So I guess when Mike was going to come out, whether Charlie told him or not, that was the discussion.
Joe Torre set his pitching rotation so that Clemens would not have a bat in his hand during this World Series. But even the sage Yankees skipper could never have anticipated this.
I mean, think about it. If he had to come to hit 4 times a game, you know, would he conduct himself differently? I think so.
Prior to this World Series, baseball's top officials and the umpires met with both managers and GMs. The topic, conduct, and the image the game was hoping to project. Managers and players were emphatically warned that all behavioral issues would be handled exclusively by the umpires.
Now that I have had time to think about it, I do believe his actions should be looked at by Frank Robinson or whoever's in charge of, you know, conduct.
Clemens would be fined $50,000 for his actions during Game 2. Later, we'll hear Roger as he reflects on his days in Beantown. But right now, let's head back to Oakland and Game 4 of the 1990 American League Championship Series here on ESPN Classic.
Each side is base hit as the A's face Roger Clemens in the second inning. Is he as superstitious as some other managers?
Hey, with all the organized planning, underneath that jersey is a T-shirt that says Minnesota won't forget, the POWs, MIAs. That started by third baseman from the Twins, Gary Gaetti. A lot of flags flying around stadiums in the American League, and Tony has that T-shirt on. He's had it on the first 3 days.
Why take it off now? Harold Baines takes the ball. He has been a big factor in the A's 3-0 lead. He's been on base 7 times in the series and has driven in 3 runs. Right around the center of all the rallies that the A's have staged. 2 balls and no strikes. Fastball is outside. Clemens has had his problems with Harold Baines, who's hitting over 300 plus a home run career-wise against Roger. Fouls his fastball out of play, and the count now is 2-1.
Talking about La Russa's superstition, you know, there are a lot of managers that really do the same thing, or try to, that Tony La Russa does. He organizes his talent, he delegates authority to his coaches, and he pays attention to detail. His owners provide him with a lot of good players.
And a high pop-up may be playable, and Wade Boggs, looking up in the sun, makes the catch. The sun, as it was yesterday, could prove troublesome for infielders and outfielders alike. Well, there's 1 out. If the Red Sox can win today, then we'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern for Game 5 tomorrow. Bob Welsh, who would be pitching with 3 days rest, will get the call for the A's, and Greg Harris, the right-hander, who would have pitched today had the Red Sox won yesterday, he'll be on the mound for Boston. Line drive, base hit to center field by Carney Lansford. And he continues to pepper Red Sox pitching. That's his 7th hit in 14 trips.
One of the things hitters look for early in the game from Clemens, what is he going to go to? Because he has an outstanding forkball. Sometimes he'll start the game off throwing a lot of off-speed pitches. But today, mostly heat, and the A's hitters are ready for it.
Lansford's aboard, the second hit of the game off of Clemens, and here is Terry Steinbach. Scored a big run yesterday when he jarred the ball loose from Tony Pena at home. Swing and a miss, strike 1. That was in the 6th inning when the A's scored 2 runs to open up a lead to 4-1. That was the eventual final score. That's Lansford with the lead at first. 1 ball and 1 strike.
Probably see from both teams a little motion on offense early in this game. Steinbach is a good man for Tony La Russa to hit and run with. They like to get that first run.
A lot of people talking about the obsession that Roger Clemens has in trying to beat Dave Stewart.
I think it goes deeper really than just Dave Stewart.
Good fastball, and it's 1-2.
Been so much talk about Clemens pitching on 4 days. I mean, pitching on 4 days has been normal in baseball for years and years. I just think Roger wants to to come out and give his teammates a big effort and win a game and give them some hope of maybe winning Game 5 and going back to Boston. Certainly people don't think that's possible.
Here's the 1-2 pitch in tight. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Steinbach. A lot of people wonder why Clemens would get the call in any event in a game like this when it's 3-0. So you got to go with your best man if he wants to go and if he feels good enough.
Yeah, and this, by pitching Game 4, if they win, he could pitch in Game 7.
Foul back.
Talk about the bright day. You don't often see pitchers wearing that eye black underneath their eye. Of course, he's got that linebacker stare.
And he's built pretty sturdily at that. 2-2 pitch. In the dirt, blocked in front by Pena. No advance. And the count is full now to Steinbach. 3 balls and 2 strikes. 1 out. Carney Lansford singled up the middle. He's on at first base, and on deck is Mark McGwire. McGwire has had nothing but misery facing Roger Clemens throughout his career. Three balls and 2 strikes. No score here in the bottom of the 2nd inning. And the runner goes. Lansford is off, and the pitch is fouled back. Tony La Russa trying to get something going here to jump ahead. That's one thing the A's have not been able to do in this series. They have trailed in all 3 games just by a single run.
Wait, a pretty good swing right there for a 3-2 pitch by Terry Steinbach. Usually more of a defensive swing in that count. He was very aggressive.
And Lansford is off again, and the pitch again fouled back.
Now, one of the things you worry about in championship series is gripping the bat too tight or gripping the ball too tight. But not Terry Steinbach. He's got a nice, loose, comfortable grip. In fact, so loose, throws the bat back to the backstop. Just missed home plate umpire Terry Cooney.
You don't often see the bat slip directly behind, do you?
They throw it out in the infield somewhere. Now, that's one of the old phrases in teaching hitting. Throw the head of the bat at the ball. Steinbach did it right there.
Lansford has taken off on the last 2 pitches that have been fouled off. Here he goes again, and the pitch is lying to left field. It's a base hit. Greenwell firing into third and safe at third as the ball gets away. Moving to second base is Steinbach, and he'll go in there, and the A's have runners at second and third. It'll be a base hit, and an error will be charged somewhere.
Wow, here's a veteran Carney Lansford after a great at-bat by Terry Steinbach. I mean, this is a solid single, and not many guys would go from first to third. Lansford rounds second, and then he just catches Greenwell hesitating for a split second. That's all he needs. And Lansford isn't blessed with the greatest speed, but he's an outstanding base runner. That was an example of it.
And Joe Morgan is coming out to the mound with runners at second and third. They have Mark McGwire coming up, who lifetime is 067 against Roger Clemens, and Willie Randolph to follow. And McGwire is a good opportunity for him to hit a fly ball, even if he doesn't get a base hit to put the A's in front. The error has been charged on Mike Greenwell's throw to third, and that allowed Steinbach to go to second base. So the Red Sox commit their 5th error of the series. The A's are still flawless in the field.
Like Joe Morgan, first of all, with a little conference with Jody Reed and Rivera, like maybe they're going to change the signs. And I wonder whether they're concerned. I mean, anytime Roger Clemens begins to get hit, you think, well, something's wrong. And one of the things in that conversation could have been, hey, maybe they're getting our sequence of signs. They thought maybe Lansford missed second base. That was it. Larry McCoy says no.
So the A's are threatening against Roger Clemens early here in the second inning, and Mark McGwire, who has only 2 hits in the series, fouls it back for a strike. Lansford is at third base. Steinbach at second with 1 out in the second inning. Up high. McGwire has managed only 2 hits in 30 times at bat against Roger Clemens career-wise, and you see how many times he has struck out.
Those that saw game 1 know the reason. Clemens has that great high fastball. McGwire is a low ball hitter, so the high fastball will get by him.
Gives him the high fastball, fouled back. That was 94 miles an hour, and he's ahead of McGwire 1-2. Willie Randolph waiting on deck. Here's the 1-2 pitch. 2 balls and 2 strikes. McGwire took a look out at Clemens as that pitch sailed towards his head.
Kind of shook his head, said it sounded kind of close. Not quite chin music, about Bill of the Cap music. Not really as close as Mark McGwire thought it was, but from Roger Clemens, don't blame him for ducking.
Ground ball hit to the hole. A throw to third base. The tag is made, but the run is going to score as Steinbach is retired. Carney Lansford comes in on McGwire's fielder's choice ground ball, and it's 1-0 A's. First time the A's score first in this series.
Well, Mark McGwire gets a ball down to put the bat on it. Rivera with a heads-up play here. Evidently the contact and run immediately play was on for the A's because Steinbach runs into an easy out at third. The run sign, I'm sure, was on for Carney Lansford. But Terry Steinbach would have been better off right here staying at second base and making Rivera make that long throw to first.
Lansford scores 1-0 Oakland. And that'll bring up Willie Randolph with 2 outs, and McGwire the base runner at first. That's a fielder's choice, and it was Rivera to Boggs for the out on Steinbach at third. Randolph with 2 hits and 2 RBIs last night already has made the defensive play of the game. 2 balls, no strikes to Willie. Clemens falls behind Randolph 3-0. People were wondering why Roger Clemens had to be taken out in the 6th inning, a decision made by Joe Morgan in game 1, but the A's had threatened in the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings of that first game. And that's in for a strike. Randolph was on his way down to first.
Willie said, "You sure?" Talked about the lack of high strikes being called. But Terry Cooney rang that one up above the belt. In fact, that looked like above the letters.
And that's ball 4. Randolph is on. That's the first walk given up by Clemens. Runners at first and second. Right now, let's go down to the field and get a report from Jim Gray. Jim?
Okay, thank you, Dick. This is the practice glove of Mike Gallego, but come game time, he uses the same glove that he's used for the last 8 years. He's a leather freak. Uses a lot of meat oil, toils with all the A's gloves. He says if Linus can have his blanket, he can keep his glove. Let's go back upstairs to you.
All right, Jim. And here is Mike Gallego, who is 3 for 7 in the series. A's with runners on first and second. That's McGwire at second, Randolph at first. And Terry Cooney arguing with Tony Pena, and Joe Morgan gets into the fray now. And you don't often see a manager get thrown in a playoff or a series. Weaver has, Earl Weaver in the past.
I thought that possibly it was a balk call, and Cooney came from behind home plate. I mean, Morgan is livid, and I'm wondering whether he's ejected Clemens. First of all, the scouting report on the umpires. And this is a rotation system. You don't get the 6 top-rated umpires, but Terry Cooney is one, if you ask managers and players, has a very short fuse. Tends to get upset a little easily, and this is an example of it.
Well, could you believe it? I mean, you say they just threw something out towards Vic Voltaggio.
Well, Clemens, be careful. Clemens has come after Cooney because I think he just realized Cooney has ejected him. Obviously, Clemens was shouting some things down at Cooney about the questionable balls and strikes.
I got to tell you, even though you're not allowed to do that, in a game like this, you don't throw out a pitcher like this.
You know, umpires used to be like your grandfather. They'd walk away, they'd let you have a say, and let you get it out of your system, but now they're like the spoiled little kid down in the corner of the block. You know, and they get cocky and arrogant, and this is an example of it.
Now, a Red Sox coach and player got tangled up in the dugout now. The question is, did Terry Cooney throw out Roger Clemens?
I can't imagine it wasn't Roger Clemens. If it was somebody else, Clemens wouldn't be the guy trying to get at him. I mean, it's absolutely absurd to throw a guy out in a situation like this, a game of this magnitude.
That could be the only thing that has the Red Sox acting like that, throwing things from the dugout, and Morgan and Clemens trying to go after the umpire.
Now I saw Clemens go to his mouth, and I'm wondering whether maybe the initial call was that Cooney said Clemens went to his mouth or balked or something in regard to that. Doubt they would have this much of an argument over something that minor.
Tony La Russa just looks on as the Red Sox have exploded. They have gone out of control. Roger Clemens, Morgan, and the dugout.
John Hirschbeck, the umpire in your picture, along with Tony Pena, trying to calm Roger down. Here's the look at the start of it. Here's Clemens. And he's saying something right there to Terry Cooney. And obviously in reference to Cooney's strike zone, the first pitch to Randolph, the 3-0 pitch, the high one, was called a strike. The next one was in the same place. He called it a ball.
We haven't seen any movement in the Red Sox dugout or bullpen as far as getting somebody else up to throw. I would think that the least would be the warning.
I don't care what Clemens said if he didn't come running down off the mound. I mean, this is a shame.
I think you used the right word, absurd, totally absurd. If he indeed is out of this game.
The players are emotionally involved. The umpires don't have to be. It's just their job to give both teams an honest chance to win. And there's no need for that kind of reaction from an umpire. I'll guarantee if the late Nestor Shylock or Charlie Berry or Ed Hurley were in control of this game, you wouldn't see that happen.
All right, Jim Gray is down there. Let's see what he knows. Jim?
Okay, Dick, I just had opportunity to speak to some of the Red Sox players over there. They said that Roger Clemens has been upset with the strike and ball zone the entire game, and that he had a couple of comments for the umpire, and all of a sudden he was just heaved out of the game. Now the Red Sox are very upset because they say this is a playoff game, and you can't throw a guy out for arguing balls and strikes. Let's go back upstairs to you.
I think at least you get a warning, and the umpire comes out and says, look, one more word from you and you're gone, and you do it that way.
Yep.
I don't think he got that kind of a warning from Terry Cooney.
Once again, this is Clemens jawing with Terry Cooney, and this is nothing new. Umpires will usually come out and warn you or say something. Hey, all right, you've had your say. That's enough. This is nothing new to argue a little bit. But to come out in a playoff game as a home plate umpire, and of course, mentioned when you talk to players and managers and you follow the league all season, you find out the personalities of different umpires. And this is in no regard a comment on Terry Cooney's ability as an umpire. It's his temperament.
It's his judgment.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's... Roger Clemens isn't through.
Well, you can bet that whoever Joe Morgan brings in right now, and it appears that Tom Bolton is trotting in from the bullpen, he will drag this thing out, and of course Bolton will get as much time as necessary.
It is just hard to fathom that in a championship game, in a series like this, an umpire would become the man on the center stage and not the player, not the pitcher. In a situation like this, and Roger Clemens, whether you're an A's fan or a Red Sox fan, I think the A's feel bad because it robs the fans, and even the A's of trying to compete against a great pitcher. We'll be back to the Coliseum in a moment. A bizarre development here at Oakland Coliseum. Roger Clemens has been thrown out of the game. Tom Bolton is warming up, has as much time as he wants. Right now, let's go to the New York studios and Pat O'Brien. Pat?
All right, Dick, thank you very much. We're joined now by, you probably been calling him Don Denkinger all your life. It's Don Denkinger, and American League umpire for 22 years, been in the business. What's your assessment of this situation, Don?
Well, what I saw happen was that Roger said something to Terry Cooney that was personal. I mean, he swore at him. And you just don't let him swear at you personally because you have another team out there that can also hear it. And it had to be audible or he wouldn't have thrown him out. And a lot of people are saying, well, it's the magnitude of the game. You don't change the rules because of the magnitude of the game. The rule says you cannot argue balls and strikes with an umpire. You let the pitcher question you once in a while, but you won't let him get personal with you.
You don't give him any kind of a break at all in this situation?
Absolutely not. You can't let him swear at you. I mean, he had to say something about Terry personally. And that's what automatically would get you ejected from baseball.
Well, what about a warning then? I mean,
well, we don't have warnings.
Sides here, but
I understand that. Yeah. We just don't have warnings. You know, you don't. Not when they get personal with you. That's the key thing that happened there is that he got personal with Terry Cooney, and you can't do that. He could have said something about the balls and strikes, but he cannot say something about Terry Cooney.
Right. So quickly again, for all those people up in Boston who are arguing someplace now, what exactly is the rule once again?
Well, the rule states that you cannot argue balls and strikes with an umpire.
Period.
We will let a pitcher question balls and strikes, but we will not let a pitcher or anybody else in that field come to us personally and call us names. And that's what had to happen. Roger had to say something personal to Terry Cooney.
Don, thanks for your expertise. That's it from here, Dick. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, and it's good to see Don Denkinger, who I remember worked his first postseason game in '75 of the Red Sox A's series. And what are your thoughts of Don Denkinger's thoughts?
Well, I think Don's words about getting personal are certainly true. And I know that umpires have a difficult job to do in a game of this magnitude. He says it doesn't make a difference. But I guess over and above the rule, what I think of when I think about, you know, the late Charlie Berry and Nestor Shylock and guys like that, is that common sense would take place and you would step out and say, hey, the guy is pumped up, he's in the game. Yeah, he said he did something he shouldn't do, but I'm going to go out there, I'm going to say, Roger, cut it. You know, that's enough. I mean, as far as swearing and calling names and things like that, since Abner Doubleday invented this game, there's been a little bit of that going on. I can appreciate the rule and Don's feeling about that, but I can't see why there wouldn't have been a warning and say, Roger, I've heard enough, knock it off, which is what I think a lot of umpires would do. And then if he does it again, history.
Even though Don said that there is no warning, does an umpire have the right to give a warning anyway?
Well, I think Don could answer that, but I'm looking at beyond the rule book here and some common sense. And I mean, there's a lot of things in the rule book. If you talk to umpires, they'll say, well, you can interpret it this way or that way. It says this in the rule, but, you know, common sense tells me to do that. And so I think right here, common sense said warn Roger, and then if he does it again, he's out of there.
One other question before we go down to Jim Gray. Have you ever been in a situation as a pitcher where you saw another pitcher say something personal to an umpire and not get thrown out?
Well, I've had some. I guess the only umpire during my career in the American League, and I had never had any problems with Don, but Bill Haller. Bill Haller was a good guy, but we just, you know, had some battles and had our say.
Let's go down to the field and Jim Gray.
Okay, Dick, I was just on the side of the Red Sox dugout. Roger Clemens came by and said he doesn't know why he was thrown out of the game. He was given no warning. He was just jawing with the umpire. Got absolutely no warning. He says there's a double standard. They're allowed to talk to the umpires, and I'm not, and that's not right. Let's go back upstairs to Dick.
Thank you very much, Jim. And so Tom Bolton has warmed up enough, and now he is going to be pitching to Mike Gallego. with the A's with runners at first and second and 2 out. A shocking, bizarre development here in game number 4 of this series as Roger Clemens was thrown out of the game here in the second inning by home plate umpire Terry Cooney. No count and 2 out. Pitch to Gallego is a curveball. Misses 1-0. Bolton faced one batter in the first game of the series. Pitched the third of an inning, has not seen any action since. McGuire, the runner at second, Randolph at first, and the pitch is taken for a ball, 2-0. 4 players have been ejected previously in league championship series play. Bert Campaneris and Lerin LeGros, the famous bat incident between the A's and the Tigers. Bruce Hurst and Jay Howell. Now, Roger Clemens. I think this crowd is stunned. In for the strike, 2-1. So Tom Bolton, the left-hander, 28-year-old out of Nashville, Tennessee.
It's really taken a lot of the focus away from what this game is being played for, the American League Championship, and all of a sudden everybody's buzzing about the ejection of Roger Clemens.
Runners at first and second and 2 down, and the pitch just misses outside. 3 balls and a strike. On deck, the top of the order, Ricky Henderson. There is Ricky. The A's lead 1-0. They've scored here. Fly ball, center field, deep, going way back and over the head. The center fielder, Burks. Ball bounds around. McGuire scores. Here comes Randolph, and in its second with a 2-run double is Mike Gallego, and it is now a 3-0 lead.
As if things weren't tough enough for Joe Morgan and Roger Clemens, Tom Bolton leaves the fastball up in the zone. Mike Gallego's a good high ball hitter. And with the warm conditions here, this ball carries a little bit better than Ellis Burks thinks. Playing him shallow as you would. And Gallego with a big 2-out double. He's filled in for Walt Weiss, and the A's never miss a beat.
He's filled in every infield position. So here's Ricky Henderson with Gallego at second. Curveball is in for strike 1. Henderson singled. Was out on a double play in the first inning. So it's 3-0 in favor of the A's. They've jumped on top of Clemens and now Tom Bolton. Both of those runs are charged to Roger Clemens. He holds up on the curve. They appeal to Vic Voltaggio, and it's a ball, 1-1. So a lot of pressure, unexpected pressure on Bolton, who was 10-5 with the Red Sox in 16 starts. There you see Roger Clemens behind manager Joe Morgan.
Wishes he had that towel over his mouth when he was on the mound.
And now Terry Cooney explaining something to Ricky Henderson. And Rene Latchman, the third base coach, comes in. What's going on anyway?
Richie Garcia, who is down on third base, may have to get involved here and restore order. He's the umpire in this group that can take charge, things back in order.
One ball, one strike is the count. And a fastball is away, 2-1.
See, now you got Bolton staring in. Once a game gets a little bit out of control early for a home plate umpire, you make for a very long afternoon.
Joe Morgan's going to come out to the mound walking faster than usual.
And this is a little ploy. He's going to wait till Terry Cooney gets to the mound, and I think you may see Joe Morgan explode.
And every Red Sox infielder will join the conference at the mound. Boggs is walking in now.
Cooney doesn't want to go out there. He's waiting. He's going to wait till he gets there. Joe might plant a few tomatoes out there while he's waiting.
Well, here comes Cooney. This ought to be interesting.
silent treatment.
He took an outside turn on Cooney, and Morgan goes back into the dugout. Roger Clemens, who started with 3 days rest. A lot of words about whether that was the smart move or not, and he gets thrown out for arguing with Terry Cooney in the second inning. There's Mike Gallego, who knocked in 2 runs with a double. Fouled at the plate by Henderson, and the count is 2 balls and 2 strikes. 3 runs are in here in the second inning, and the A's, who need 1 win to wrap up the American League pennant, are in front 3-0. And grounded foul. So against the left-hander, the A's have exactly what they like. They have 8 right-handed batters and only Harold Baines swinging from the left side.
Now, the key right now for the A's and the Red Sox is to get your focus and your concentration back on the game. See, Willie clapping his hands trying to get the A's in. Because of what's happened, everything has gotten so quiet. You lose your train of thought.
Strikes him out on a curveball, and that'll do it in a wild second inning. The A's score 3, however, and that'll stay in the books. 3-0 Oakland. You know, it was truly a 3-ring circus in that second inning. Over at the Red Sox dugout, they had thrown those Gatorade baskets out. Now, Dick Berardino, the coach, pulling Marty Barrett into the dugout. Barrett also was ejected from the game along with Roger Clemens.
Wow, Dick Berardino just trying to calm Marty down. Marty didn't want to have anything to do with it. Usually throw that Gatorade over one another when you win those containers.
And they were throwing 3 or 4 of those barrels out of there. Now, Joe Morgan in the dugout
talking with Jim Evans, who is the first base umpire. And what they're talking about there is Clemens cannot stay on the bench. Hey, is Evans going to pick Roger Clemens up and move him? Clemens says, I got to the playoffs. You kicked me out, but I'm going to sit here and watch.
That's Terry Cooney, the home plate umpire, who tossed Clemens to start it all.
Actually, Jim Evans is the right field umpire today. Well, it's sure taken a lot of the suspense and electricity in what promised to be a great pitcher's duel.
Now Clemens is going to leave through the path going into the tunnel. Photographers surround him like he's a visiting dignitary, and some mixed reaction from the fans. That's Tom Bolton.
How about that? Clemens walked back, and a fan said, can I have your hat? And even in that moment of heat, he flipped his cap up to the fan for a souvenir.
Baseball fever. Catch this.
You got it.
Here's Dave Henderson. He takes a strike. Henderson grounded into a double play in the first inning. Mixing Tom Bolton. Bolton allowed a double, and Mike Gallego drove in 2 runs, both charged to Clemens, and then struck out Ricky Henderson to end the second inning. So it's Dave Henderson followed by Canseco and Baines here in the third. Off-speed breaking ball, and Henderson way ahead of that one. The count is 2 balls and 2 strikes. Bolton, the big story this year for the Red Sox, left unprotected on the 40-man roster. No one had claimed him. It was brought up from Pawtucket, the Red Sox AAA farm, in mid-June. Drive hit out to right field. Charging is Brunansky. Makes a diving play, and he makes the catch. Fine play by Tom Brunansky. Made a habit of that down the stretch for Boston.
Great instincts in right field. You make catches like this by getting the first step and just looks that ball right into the glove. If you slide straight forward, you don't make the play. But Brunansky has the agility to slide sideways, and the glove with the palm up, ball falls right in it. That's good play.
1 away in the third inning. Here's Canseco. Canseco has to be looking at a possibility to break out of his slump against the curveballing left-hander. See what Bolton has to say about it. 1-1. In for the strike, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Canseco has driven in 1 run in this series. And still looking for his first hit. Two balls and 2 strikes. Bolton had been a reliever till last year. Red Sox last season brought him up. He was 0-4 and then sent back to AAA. In there for a call, strike 3, and Canseco goes down. And there are 2 out. Second strikeout for Bolton. We're at Oakland's Coliseum, where the big story was the ejection of Roger Clemens, arguing with Terry Cooney in the 2nd inning. This is Dick Stockton and Jim Cott. The A's lead the Red Sox 3-0. Trying to wrap it up in 4 straight and move on to the World Series. And Harold Baines takes a call strike. Baines fouled out to Wade Boggs his first time up. There's a fastball in there, 0-2.
You see a lot more strikes being taken by the A's. This is quite a change in looking at Tom Bolton from 3/4 arm on the left side than Clemens' overhand fastball.
How much difference is it with a club that's gearing themselves to facing a Roger Clemens and what he offers, and then all of a sudden early in the game looking at something totally different?
I think it's the moment of the game and what's happened in addition to the different look of Bolton. You know, and Bolton, as you mentioned, an opportunity. He was at Pawtucket, and like Dana Kicker, the right-hander, and Greg Harris, another right-hander, have that 3, 4, and 5 slot for the Red Sox have given them great production. That's one of the reasons they're here. And yes, the A's didn't plan on facing him, so they're probably sitting on the bench right now saying, hey, be alive for the slow curve, and talking about the movement on his fastball.
Baines fouls it out of play. The count to him is 1-2. And the curveball bounced past Dave McKay, the first base coach.
So many more pitchers today are sinker, slider, and split finger. So when you see a Bolton, it was really the standard equipment that pitchers had for years. Fastball, overhand curve, and change. But that big overhand curve is a little different look.
There's a fastball in tight that moves Baines back, and the count is 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, you push hitters off the plate. You see Pena's target, push him off the plate. That usually means come back outside.
Tony La Russa told us before the game that this wasn't just a last-minute idea to get Baines from Texas. They tried as far back as last winter to bring him over. Of course, La Russa knowing him from their Chicago White Sox days. And they finally got their man. 2 balls and 2 strikes with 2 outs. The base is clear. And a weak ground ball foul down the first base line. You know, talking about Bolton and his story. With all of that, he also had to battle back from surgery for reconstruction within the left kidney. That was a couple of years ago. It was on the disabled list. He's had a lot of obstacles.
Like Dana Kicker, a guy that just finally is getting a chance to prove he can pitch in the big leagues, taking advantage of it.
And keeping the hitters off balance thus far.
Well, give you an idea what a tough out Harold Baines is. The pitches that he's fouling off right here. Bolton's worked him inside, outside.
And he went around, strike 3. So Bolton has struck out 3 of the 5 batters he's faced, and we have completed 3 innings in Oakland.
For more information and trivia on our classic games, upcoming specials, and the ESPN Classic program schedule, go to ESPN.com/classic. Well, here are some of the memorable baseball moments from 1990. 43-year-old Nolan Ryan tossed the 6th no-hitter of his great career, blanking the A's on June 11th. 18 days later, Oakland's Dave Stewart and Fernando Valenzuela of the Dodgers became the first pitchers to throw no-hitters on the same day. The Griffeys, 40-year-old Ken Sr. and 20-year-old Ken Jr. became the first father and son combination when they played together for Seattle in a game against Kansas City in August. 1993 was also the beginning of a downward trend for the great pitcher Roger Clemens. Over the next 4 seasons, the Rocket, who battled assorted injuries and a lack of run support, posted his first losing season and saw his ERA balloon to over 4. Subpar performances also coincided with the increasing friction between Clemens and the front office of whether or not he would re-sign with the Red Sox. Peter Gammons spoke with Clemens about his future in Boston in this SportsCenter flashback from 1990.
There's no better baseball when you think of baseball and playing up here in the Red Sox and the Yankees. The Northeast is great baseball. And this is where I've been for 6 years and coming upon 6 full years. And I enjoy playing baseball here. It makes me a better pitcher. This town makes me a better pitcher. I enjoy the pressure, and I thrive on that, and it makes me better.
Do you ever think about how much fun it would be to be the guy that won the World Series for Boston finally after X amount of years?
Yeah. Well, again, it's going to happen, and I would love to be a part of that, but hopefully it's not too much further down the road. I would like to do it, and so Miss Yawkey could see that, and it's not too far off, I hope.
Right now, let's continue with Game 4 of the 1990 ALCS. It's the Red Sox and the A's here on ESPN Classic.
In the top of the 5th inning, Oakland's defense backed Dave Stewart's pitching with some wonderful plays in the field. Carney Lansford robbed Dwight Evans of a single down the line with a spectacular backhanded stop for the first out of the inning. Dave Henderson then took away a single from Tom Brunansky with a fine catch in center field for out number 2. The inning, however, was not perfect for Oakland as Dave Stewart gave up a 2-out walk to Carlos Quintana. But the walk proved harmless when Ricky Henderson ran down a hooking shot off the bat of Luis Rivera to end the inning. After the 5th inning, Stewart's pitching took over as he threw 5 ground ball outs and 1 flyout through the 6th and 7th innings. That makes 7 consecutive socks set down by Stewart since Luis Rivera's flyout in the 5th inning. When we come back, the A's are still leading the Red Sox 3-0 in the top of the 8th inning in Game 4 of the 1990 American League Championship Series right here on ESPN Classic.
And the story of this game, we haven't had any scoring since the 2nd inning when Roger Clemens was ejected. Marty Barrett as well. The A's scored 3 runs. Stewart sailing along with a 2-hitter. And we go to the Red Sox 8th, the bottom 3rd of the order, facing Stewart. It'll be Brunansky, Quintana, and Rivera. First pitch, ball 1. Brunansky 0 for 2, called out on strikes and line to center field. Good play there by Dave Henderson. 6 outs away from their 3rd straight pennant of the A's, and the pitch is fouled out of play. Interestingly enough, Jim, Clemens went out. Bolton came in and gave up that 2-run double, and the A's have not done anything more offensively, but the Red Sox can't get anything going. And as we say it, Brunansky hits a drive that hooks foul down the left field line.
And Joe Morgan will say that's been the story of the series for us. Yesterday, Jody Reed led off the game against Mike Moore with a ball that just hooked foul. I mean, Brunansky juices this up toward the upper deck, and that one's about 15-20 feet foul.
Broken bat grounder, gloved by Lansford, wide of 3rd, and there's 1 away. 8 in a row set down by Dave Stewart, as is his custom, getting stronger as the game moves along.
Once again, from that position, a chance to get a quick jump on the ball with a lateral movement, and the rest of it pretty routine for Carney Lansford.
He and Boggs have had exceptional series at 3rd base. Here's Carlos Quintana, who is 0 for 12 in a walk, 0 for 12 in the series. Crowd starting to move along now, and in the aisles, fans are parading with signs. Pitch taken for a ball, 1-1. You mentioned the acquisition of pitchers as the broom parade begins its march.
Left over from last year's World Series.
How about acquiring Eckersley from the Cubs and Welsh? And the Hendersons and deals.
Yeah, they only have a couple of pitchers on their staff that were developed in their farm system.
Fastball, and there's Lansford again at third. Across to retire Quintana, and there's 2 away. And the crowd gets louder with each succeeding putout by the A's.
Mentioned back in the 5th inning that Stewart was a little out of sync, but the great pitchers get right back in it. And now that tempo and that rhythm. We talked about the tempo and rhythm of Jeff Gray. It's interesting to study Stewart and all of the Oakland pitchers. They're influenced by pitching coach Dave Duncan. Get on the rubber, get the sign, think about where I want to throw it, and go to work. There's a rhythm to the way they work.
Rivera hitless in 2 times today. Breaking ball, strike 1. Fly ball to left field, and Ricky Henderson shades his eyes, and a 1-2-3 inning. The Red Sox are out in order, and the A's are 3 outs away from their 3rd straight American League pennant. Three to nothing, the A's coming up in the last of the 8th inning. And once again, the view from the top from the Goodyear Blimp Columbia. In the dressing room, that is not champagne, that's sparkling cider, non-alcoholic, and that's what the A's will celebrate with if they can close the door on the Red Sox. Larry Anderson is the new pitcher for the Red Sox. He is the 4th pitcher for Joe Morgan today.
Kind of ironic that we've talked about the demise of the Boston bullpen. You're looking at the William Heritage Award, the American League trophy. But the demise of the Red Sox bullpen in the first couple of games, and yet today what's lost in this excitement is this is just a 3-0 game, and the Red Sox bullpen has kept them in it.
David Henderson leading off for Oakland. Takes a strike on the inside corner. Jeff Gray pitched 2 2/3 innings, allowed 1 hit and struck out 2 batters. 1-1 to Henderson, who is 0 for 3 this afternoon. Red Sox used 6 pitchers in game 1. 4 pitchers in the second game, and Boddicker went the distance yesterday. Lays off the pitch outside, 2-1 to Henderson.
I think what Boston has done this season with Roger Clemens, Mike Boddicker, and then a number of pitchers, Larry Anderson being one they really didn't count on or have at the beginning of the season, done a great job.
2 balls and 2 strikes. But against the Oakland Athletics, the final analysis, pitching and defense.
That's how you win championships.
And a full count now, 3-2 to Henderson. Well, Tony La Russa told us before the game, he said, I had good vibes early as the second day of spring training. Everyone showed up and everyone was in condition. And Henderson strikes out, 1 gone.
I think that's probably what Tony La Russa should get credit for above all, is that he gets this ball club so prepared from spring training day 1 on. And that once they take the field, you know, they just kind of react and do what they normally do. He takes care of all the preparation and the drilling, and probably does it better than any manager in baseball, and has a great coaching staff.
And he lets them do their job. He has respect for them. Here's Doug Jennings with his first at-bat in the series. Went into play when Canseco came out. It's a hopper to Quintana. Makes the play unassisted, and there's 2 out. Looking ahead to the Red Sox 9th, it'll be the top of their order. Burks, Reed, and Boggs. Rack Slider is the Red Sox third base coach. Ron Hasse is going to come up and bat in the designated hitter spot. You remember that Willie McGee went in to run for Harold Baines. So here's Hasse. He played in game 2 and had a base hit. Red Sox took a 1-0 lead in each of the first 3 games of this series, only to see the A's come back. Today, the Sox never tasted the advantage. Fastball and a strike to Hasse. Back on the screen. The A's have scored 20 runs in this series. The Red Sox only 3. And if this stays, that would be the biggest differential since the 1970 championship series by the Orioles over the Twins.
I was on the losing end of those years with the ball clubs with the Twins, and there is no more devastating loss for a ball player than losing the playoffs or championship series. Why? Because you've played 162 games to win your division, and you think you've accomplished something, and then in 1 week, it's like you've lost it all.
A ball and 2 strikes to Hasse. Drama building here in Oakland, even though the A's have a 3-0 lead in games and in the scoreboard. Anytime you clinch something, it's major, and the A's are on the brink. Dick Stockton and Jim Cott with you. Oakland batting in the last of the 8th inning. Looking for a sweep, just as they did in 1988 against the Red Sox.
Joe Morgan said the juggled lineup might work. It might not. He did it in '88. Led off with Ellis Burks. The Red Sox got 5 runs in the first inning of that game, but they still lost.
Anderson runs the count full now, 3-2 to Hasse. And he walks him.
With their season on the brink, the Red Sox turn to their ace, Roger Clemens, to keep their hopes alive. This game would turn out to be one of the most controversial in league championship history.
I just remember Clemens had eye black under his eyes, and it was like he was going out to play a football game instead of a baseball game. He just got him so worked up. I'm convinced he's one of those guys that when he reaches a certain adrenaline level, he really doesn't know what he's doing.
This guy was extraordinary. He was on another plane from other pitchers, except when he pitched against Dave Stewart. When he pitched against Dave Stewart, something happened to him. He couldn't beat him.
Clemens was well aware of Dave Stewart being very prideful of the fact that he could beat Clemens whenever he faced them. And I think Clemens was overamped to pitch that game in Oakland. And, you know, he's a high-strung guy to begin with, and when he didn't get the benefit of the doubt on those calls, he snapped.
I was looking down at the dirt after I walked the guy and kind of shaking my head. And I looked back up, and the umpire was shaking his head back at me, and I saw his throat guard moving, so he was gesturing towards me. And I said, you know, I'm not shaking my head at you. And then he continued to say something back at me very loudly, and then basically said, I'm not shaking my bleeping head at you. Next thing I know, I was gone.
A game of that magnitude at the time was, you know, so important for us to stay in that ball game. And here's our #1 pitcher on the mound. You better be sure that you're throwing him out for the right reason. Terry Cooney's a good umpire, and I thought he overreacted on that. With the magnitude of that game.
Cooney said he felt he had no choice because Clemens had cursed him out, and the A's had heard that in the dugout. He said Cooney thought he would have lost control of the game. If anybody is to be blamed for that situation, for Roger Clemens not pitching any longer in that game, it's Roger.
Right now, let's continue with Game 4 of the 1990 ALCS. It's the Red Sox and the A's here on ESPN Classic.
The A's send up a pinch hitter for Ron Hasse. Pinch runner, that is, Lance Blankenship, will run for Hasse. Joe Morgan coming out to the mound. Jeff Reardon has been warming up in the bullpen. Arnie Lansford coming up to hit.
Joe stretching out his. He's not losing sight of the fact that this is just a 3-0 lead, and he's got his closer, Jeff Reardon, getting ready down there to at least keep it a 3-0 lead going to the ninth.
Up until this point, the Red Sox may have lost some concentration in games that they had the lead. All of a sudden, the A's would score 7 in the ninth in one game, 2 in the ninth, and they let the game get away from them yesterday as well defensively. Morgan doesn't want to see that happen.
I think today Roger Clemens' ejection was a rallying point for them. They have stayed in this game with remarkable composure, but once the A's get that 3-run lead, they're difficult to overcome with Stewart on the mound.
Lance Blankenship, the pinch runner, on at first, 2 down. And Carney Lansford, who is 1 for 2 with a sacrifice. Knocked out 7 hits in this series. Same number struck by Wade Boggs of the Red Sox. There goes the runner. Pitch taken for a ball. The throw to second. And safe is Blankenship for the stolen base.
Haven't had a lot of opportunity to see Lance Blankenship. He was counted on to replace the valuable utility man Tony Phillips, who went to Detroit in the offseason. But in a foot race, Canseco, Ricky Henderson, and Blankenship are right there 1, 2, 3 on this ball club. This guy can run.
And as you point out, Joe Morgan knows it's only a 3-run game, wants to keep it that way. Tony La Russa wants more runs. He doesn't think 3's enough, as Lansford swings and misses 1-1. And the A's could be the first team to win postseason play without a home run in 71 years. Fouls back the fastball in on the fist, 1-2. This is Anderson's 3rd appearance in the 4 games. One and 2 to Lansford. Blankenship with the lead at second. In 1979, the A's drew just 306,000 fans at home the entire year. How far have they come? This year they drew a record 2,900,000 at the Coliseum. Talk about a turnaround.
And as we alluded to earlier, a franchise that there was some talk of moving away from here because of that low attendance back in the late 70s. About one of the healthiest ones around right now.
Lance Blankenship has the lead at second. The count is 2-2 to Carney Lansford. Swing and a miss, strike 3, and the inning is over, and now we go to the 9th inning. 3 outs away from a title. And welcome back to Oakland. The Red Sox coming up in the 9th inning against Dave Stewart, who is not allowed a runner beyond first base this afternoon. He has given up 2 hits. Wade Boggs has them both. Has walked 1 and struck out 1. And it'll be the top of the order for the Sox. Burks, Reed, and Boggs in the 9th inning. Rick Honeycutt has started to throw in the bullpen for the A's. with Boggs and Greenwell hitting third and possibly fourth. Honeycutt might be needed. Here's Burks, 0 for 3. And a strike on the outside corner. Stewart has retired 10 straight hitters. No balls and 2 strikes. Last man to reach base with Quintana with a 2-out walk in the 5th. The last hit, Boggs with a single in the 4th. And a ball and 2 strikes to Ellis Burks. Curveball, line fair down the left field line and into the corner. Chasing it is Ricky Henderson. And going into second with a double is Ellis Burks. And the first extra base hit for the Red Sox in the game. Off a fastball, line drive into the corner. And Burks has his second 2-base hit of this series. And there's going to be more activity down in the Oakland bullpen as Ellis Burks is on at second with nobody out. There's Rick Honeycutt, the left-hander, who appeared yesterday and pitched a third of an inning, and Dennis Eckersley. Need we say more about him? Here's Jody Reed, who takes a strike. 0 for 3 today, and only 1 hit in this series. He has struggled. Red Sox do not have a base hit with runners in scoring position in this series. Trailing 3-0 in the top of the 9th inning. Foul back, and Stewart jumps ahead of Reed, 0-2. Red Sox looking for another base runner to try to make things interesting here in the 9th, and the A's have Honeycutt and Eckersley working. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Stewart got ahead of Burks 0-2 before Burks lined a double. On deck is Wade Boggs, who has 2 hits today. But we may not see Stewart against Boggs. Breaking ball just misses, and the count is 2-2. And a 3-2 count. After getting ahead, it's now 3 balls and 2 strikes. 104 pitches. Stewart had thrown 75 pitches through the first 6 innings. And if Reed gets on, good chance Honeycutt will come in. Fouls it out of play. Stewart worked 8 innings in winning the first game of this series. Gave up a run and 4 hits in that game. Two pitch last foul down the left field line. So what was billed as another confrontation between Roger Clemens and Dave Stewart never materialized when Clemens was ejected from the game in the 2nd inning for arguing with Terry Cooney. Bolton, Gray, and Anderson have come in relief. Bolton gave up a double to Gallego, and after that the Red Sox have shut down the door for the A's. And there's a base hit down the right field line. Rounding third is Burks. Retrieving it is Jennings. Burks will score. And on at first with a base hit, it's a 3-1 ball game. And that may be all for Dave Stewart. I would think so, with Honeycutt ready in the bullpen for the A's. Reed gets only his second hit of the series and an RBI, and here comes La Russa. And it'll be Honeycutt to come in to face Boggs, and you'll listen to the hand for Stewart. He has pitched marvelously. Back here in Oakland, and a pitching change for the A's. Dave Stewart, who is right there with another brilliant performance, going 8 innings, but tiring here in the 9th. And Rick Honeycutt, who has made 2 appearances in the LCS and has faced 1 batter each time, both Mike Greenwell, and he's retired them both times. Honeycutt, no stranger to postseason play, will be facing Boggs and Greenwell, 2 left-handed hitters. Boggs 2 for 3. With a couple of hits. Runner at first is Jody Reed. Ball 1 outside to Boggs. 3-1 the score. The A's got all their runs in the 2nd inning, and the Red Sox trying to stage a threat here in the 9th. Trying to stave off a 4-game sweep. Misses. 2 balls and no strikes. Mark McGuire is not holding Jody Reed on at first base. He's playing behind him a step. The infield is bunched toward the middle, and Lansford is a step behind third. Ground ball up the middle. Randolph playing perfectly. Steps on the bag for 1 to throw the first in time for the double play, and there are 2 gone. Big double play for Honeycutt. And the A's are 1 out away. And Randolph, who is shaded towards second, the veteran who has come in with Weiss injured. And Boggs hits into the double play, and the bases are clear with 2 out. Randolph with several sparkling plays in the field. Dwight Evans, who has been through several of these postseason affairs. And the batter is Greenwell with 2 out. So the Red Sox are down to their last out, and Honeycutt, facing Greenwell, who is 0 for 3 today, has hit the ball sharply on 2 occasions. Ball 1 low. Greenwell has not gotten a base hit in the LCS. He is 0 for 13. Swing and a miss. 1-1. And that RBI single by Reed was the Red Sox first hit with men in scoring position in the 4 games. Eckersley has stopped throwing in the A's bullpen. He's ready if they need him. And the count goes to 2-1 on Greenwell. Greenwell keeps it alive for Boston. Tony Pena is the on-deck hitter. And a one-hopper fielded by Gallego. The throw to first, and the ball game is over. League champions for the 3rd consecutive year. establishes an LCS record, 5 victories in his career in LCS play. And the Oakland A's have taken the first step to what they hope will be back-to-back world championships. There are the totals in Game 4. Stewart wins it. Clemens loses the game, and the big story was his ejection in the second inning, but the Red Sox managed only 1 run. 1 run in each of the 4 games. Well, earlier, Jim Gray got this reaction from Roger Clemens.
Right. All right, I'm here with Roger Clemens. What did you say to the umpire?
Well, I walked that guy, and I was looking down and shaking my head, and basically I looked up, and he was shaking his head back at me, and I basically said the first time, I'm not talking to you, I'm not shaking my head at you, and I was continuing to shake my head, and then I saw him gesture towards me, and I said, I'm not bleeping talking to you, I'm not shaking my head at you. The next thing I know, I was out of the game, so it might have had something to do with yesterday when he blew a call at first base on a check swing, and some guys made some motions towards him then. I don't know, but I was very surprised. I didn't know I was thrown out of the game until after the fact. Told Tony, let's go, and basically, when I walked the guy, I was disturbed about that, and I don't know, I can't believe it, and it was unbelievable, really.
Does the punishment fit the crime? You're not supposed to curse at an umpire.
Well, again, he was motioning to me, and I was just letting him know the first time that I wasn't showing him up or doing anything to him in that manner. So I hope the commissioner, whoever's involved, will get a good look at this, because that's pretty tough right there, and I don't know what it's from. They might as well just hand it over to him. I mean, and we've been playing pretty good hard baseball, and if everything works out, we'll see what happens. I'm going to ice my arm, and hopefully we can win today. I'll pitch tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
After the Oakland A's swept past the Red Sox for the American League Championship, they were expected to do the same to the National League winners, the Cincinnati Reds. The A's looking for their 2nd straight World Series championship. However, it was the Reds that did the sweeping. Cincinnati behind the World Series MVP, Jose Rijo, and the Nasty Boys, relievers Rod Dibble, Randy Meyer, and Norm Charlton, disarmed the Oakland Bats and took care of the Athletics in 4 games. We hope you enjoyed Game 4 of the 1990 American League Championship Series between the Oakland Athletics and the Boston Red Sox. And thanks for watching ESPN Classic.
You're watching ESPN Classic.